Episode of RfRx, your prescription for coping. I'm Kara, I'll be your host, and I have with me returning co-host Daniel, aka King Loki. Daniel, how are you?
Never better. Never had a bad day. To quote
Wow,
Evangelist.
impressive. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And happy to have everybody joining us here tonight. Can't wait to talk with our guest in just a few minutes. And for anybody that's new here, Recovering from Religion offers hope, healing, and support to those struggling with issues of doubt and non belief. And RFRX is our weekly live stream show where we host guests who discuss topics that may be relevant to folks in the RFR community. And today we are talking about From Evangelist to Humanist with Jake Villa. And as a reminder, RFR is a nonprofit organization, and our shows are designed to generate conversation and engage our powers of reason. All of our guest speakers are presenting their own views, and people of any political or religious affiliation are welcome to participate in the show. And this is a safe space for members of the LGBTQ plus community. So we ask that everyone please keep the comments civil. If you disagree with someone in the chat, do so respectfully, and please respect the speaker, the hosts, the other guests, and yourself. And if you have a question that you would like to ask the guests during the show, drop it in the chat and we will be collecting those and ask a few of them at the end. So, with that, Daniel, would you care to introduce our guest?
Oh, I'd be pleased to. As the organizing director of the American Humanist Association, Jake V is dedicated to building and mobilizing a strong grassroots network to advance humanist values across the country. With nearly 2 decades of experience in community engagement, program development, and leadership at the YMCA and Playworks, Jake has a deep understanding of how to bring people together around shared values. A firm believer in the power of connection, Jake specializes in empowering individuals and local groups to take meaningful action, whether through community building, advocacy, or acts of service. He is currently leading efforts to expand and activate AHA's membership base, ensuring humanists have a strong network and voice in their local communities and on the national level. Jake holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Thomas Edison State University. He is passionate about the power of play, believing that shared play experiences foster empathy, strengthen communities, and break down barriers. Throughout his career, he has championed play as a tool for engagement, inclusion, and personal growth.
Play's the best.
Awesome.
Did you know that when we play together, the same part of our brain that's associated with empathy lights up? Play literally makes us more empathetic. It's plays the
Do you
best.
want to come over and play with my Transformers with me?
Yes, hell yes, I
Yes. I am so
Heck yeah.
for this.
Yeah.
We were all like showing each other in the pre-show like what like toys and fidgety things we have with us while we record things. I have
do.
my
Yeah.
my
Got
giant eel.
my little spinner.
We're a very serious show.
This is very serious, y'all. It's super serious. But now I'm glad to know that when we're playful, it's actually even better. So look
Yeah.
at that. We're building empathy right here.
I mean, okay, can I just like go on a tangent about play for a second? Like
Please do.
everything in my bio about play is for cereal. Like I love play. So all mammals play, right? We recognize it with dogs when they do the bow, right? Elephants will take a knee. Like all animals, all mammals have a symbol to invite you to play or invite each other to play. It's part of our evolution. Like it's part of what makes us a mammal and teaches us how to communicate with people around us. And we practice our executive functions as we grow up through play. But then society has taught us at some point that being an adult means you shouldn't play anymore. And I think so much of what's wrong with the world is because we stop playing. And so George Bernard Shaw said, you don't grow old. You don't stop playing because you grow old. You grow old because you stop playing, which I think is one of the best quotes in history. So,
I think you quoting George Bernard Shaw means you win. Can
Yes.
you elaborate on what you mean by play, though?
Yeah. So play requires imagination. It's not just like when I ask adults, like, when was the last time you played? They'll be like, oh, I played a basketball game, or I go for a run every day. But that's not play. Like play requires a suspension of disbelief. And so like it needs to engage the imagination. And so I think playing with your Transformers is play. I think D&D or board game nights is play. I think being silly with kids, if you have them, is play. And just suspension of disbelief in some way.
I guess reading can be a form of play too, under that rubric, right? I mean,
yeah, that's a solo activity though, right? So
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Play is cooperative.
Play is
What if
cooperative and
you
communal.
read and then go to a book club? Does that count?
Maybe. I think play needs to engage like multiple senses, right? Like it needs
Hmm.
to kind of bring you into a space of silliness. So when I worked at this organization called Playworks, playworks.org, which is an amazing org, like even in our staff meetings and our board meetings, we would start every meeting with a game. And so we would play together for 10 or 15 minutes before we sat down and like got business serious. And it was such a great experience because we would argue about things that didn't matter, like the rules to the game. And then we would sit down and argue about things that did matter, but we already knew how to argue with each other because we played it before, right? Like we experienced it through play. And so it's play super powerful. If you can find ways to infuse more play into your life, please do so.
Yeah, I am doing that all I can. You mentioned D&D, and I know, we're all chronically online and everything like that, but I've really gotten into also online gaming and have found that to be a great way to socialize with people when you're not able to go
Mhm.
and see them in person. Now, I am assuming that still counts even if you're not physically in the same space. Is that still as good?
I would imagine how much you suspend your disbelief, you know?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
quite a
Are
bit.
you imagining yourself as the character? Are you getting
Absolutely.
involved in the imagination world? Then I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, I'm glad to hear that I'm building my empathy skills and, doing great work while I'm not wasting time online. So, it's so glad you came on to tell
Yeah.
us that and give us permission
You've
to
been
have a
given
little fun.
permission. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Well,
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that you found something that gives you that enrichment that some people go to religion looking
Mm,
for,
yeah.
and
mm,
I have to wonder, I know you were an evangelical Christian once upon a time. How
mhm.
much play happened in those spaces,
Ooh.
if
Yeah.
any?
So it's interesting because I think all religions, or not all religions, but like youth group uses play as a tool to kind of bring you in, right, and engage you. So like I think about all the times that I recruited kids around my neighborhood for vacation Bible school, which was just like inviting people to play, but then using that suspension of disbelief to infuse something else, right? Um, which is a sad way to use play, I think. But I do think that play is natural, and so we all use play to get there. But that play can be, um, yeah, it can put you in a state of readiness to where you're more compliant, maybe, or more ready to accept something that you weren't able to accept, or maybe closed off about before, because we've created empathetic bonds through this play session, right? So looking back, like I grew up, doing vacation Bible school every year and recruiting kids to come to VBS every summer. And then my family worked at a Christian summer camp, and so from the time I was 12, I lived full time at a Christian summer camp, and it was me and then all the college kids. And my family lived 5 miles away, but I would stay at camp in the staff dorms. And as the years went on, I absolutely loved it. Like I got to grow up at summer camp, which is an incredible experience. But every week it was a 350 bed camp, and so we were converting, a lot of kids every week. And they'd put their little rocks in like empty milk jugs, and we'd count how many kids we converted at the end of the summer. But I started to realize that there was like a formula for this, right? So kids would get there on Sunday night, and then by like Thursday night, they were kind of compliant, right? They were really tired. They were really worn down. They had really long days. They had been taken out of everything they knew. They had formed these bonds with their cabin mates. And so on Thursday night was always the altar call. And I don't know that it was like intentionally designed this way or if it just naturally evolved that way over time. But it became really obvious after a couple of years of like, oh, there's a method to this, right? There's a way that we bring kids into this space.
Yeah.
We kind of break them down and rebuild them, and then put them in a space where even the kids who thought they were Christian were going forward to become Christian again, right? Or to like rededicate, because you become like there's just such a feeling by that time of the week. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself, but
That's okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
play can be used in multiple ways. I guess.
That
Not to make
is
play a bad thing, but
No,
yeah.
but I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, that it could be, yet another one of the tools that can be used to manipulate people because,
Yeah.
we hear about that a lot on this program. Obviously,
Mm,
many people feel that they, were at one point in time manipulated into a belief
mm,
system or, had fallen victim or fallen prey to, certain techniques and tactics that we see used over and over again. And we've talked about music being one of those before, so it makes total sense to me that play could fall in there too. Any way to get people to let their guard down.
yep.
But
Yeah.
yeah, well, back us up a little bit, maybe.
Well,
Tell us a
yeah.
little bit about how did you get involved in religion originally, and
Yeah.
what exactly was your faith background? You mentioned VBS, and that makes me think of my Southern Baptist and non-denominational
Yeah.
upbringing. But what was yours, and
Yeah.
tell us about your journey to where you finally realized that that was not what you believed anymore.
Yeah. So I grew up in I started life in a Christian Reformed church, a Calvinist
Oh,
church, if
oh,
those words are familiar to anybody. So
yes.
Calvinists believe in predestination, that you're chosen by God, right? And I went to a private Christian school, kindergarten through sixth grade. First and second grade was in the same room. Third and fourth grade was in the same room. Fifth and sixth grade was in the same room. The biggest room of students I had was like 14. So then that was across grades. And so it was a very small school, a very kind of intense school. I never learned evolution. I never learned real science. I don't think it was just it was just creationism. And so I was young Earth creationist. I've met Ken Ham of the Answers in Genesis fame, if that's in, you see,
Oh,
see
Oh,
some
we know
no,
knowledge.
him.
Yeah.
yes, we know all about him and
He's a
his quote
recurring villain
unquote
around here.
museum. Yes.
So I basically had the first 5 chapters of Genesis memorized because of Answers in Genesis, and I was a young Earth creationist. I was going to go intern for AIG. I've met Ken, or I had met Ken. This is 25 plus years ago now, or something, 20 years ago. Had met Cam several times in the 90s. And so, yeah, young Earth creationist, private Christian school, kindergarten through sixth grade, Calvinist upbringing. And then when I was in junior high, or when I was 12, rather, my dad got a job at a Christian summer camp, the same summer camp that I had gone to when I was a kid. And so it was a property that I was really familiar with and loved. And so then I spent 4 summers through junior high and high school, 5 summers, working every summer at that. And I was homeschooled junior high and high school. So I had a very intense kind of bubble of a background, right? Um, when I was homeschooled, I would do most of my schoolwork in about 4 hours. And I would say 3.5 of those hours was probably religious studies. And so I kind of had a seminary education in high school. I read the Bible cover to cover 3 times. I read 3 major biblical commentaries. I read every other major religious text so I could become a better missionary. So I read the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, the Book of Mormon, the Quran. And I really wanted to understand what these people believed and why, so that I could convert them better when I got into the mission field. I was going to go to Moody Bible Institute. I was going to become an airline pilot, or like a missionary pilot with
Oh,
Moody. They have
Oh,
Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. They have a 4-year program. You spend 2 years in Chicago. You spend 2 years at an airfield in Tennessee, learning how to land on like grass airfields in the middle of nowhere, so that you can then go drop Bibles over like North Korea and stuff.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah, yeah. This I really wanted this life. This is what I thought. So I had entire books of the Bible memorized. I mean, it was Jude, if that means anything to
Yeah,
anybody.
it's
But
the shortest one, isn't it?
yeah, I
I,
once.
I also went to a Christian Bible
Yeah,
school.
yeah. I
you're making me think about my yeshiva days.
yeah.
You said you read every Bible commentary? Did you perchance read Rashi or Onkelos or any of
I
the other
don't.
Jewish sages?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
no. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
Christians
remember
don't.
that.
They don't care for that stuff. It's all just narc.
Mm-mm.
Okay, never
I
mind.
did. I did read the Gnostics.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah, which
yeah.
I thought were super great and should have been kept in.
I tend
But
to agree. I just it always fascinates me that people quote all these Bible authorities and
yeah,
these different people, and they don't go to my Bible.
right.
That's our book. We exist.
Yeah,
We'll tell
yeah,
you. You know.
yeah. I one of the front to backs that I read was next to Hebrew translation. So it was like half Hebrew, half English, and then switched to Greek in the New Testament. But
Fascinating.
Oh, did you learn Hebrew and Greek as well
no,
when you
not at
were
all.
in school?
Did you read the
No,
Tanakh?
no, I don't remember reading that.
Well, the Tanakh is it's the Jewish Bible.
Uh-huh.
Like it's the Old Testament, it's Torah, Nevi'im. It's the 5 books of Moses,
Uh-huh.
the prophets, and the writings. And we just call that the Tanakh. It's a
Yeah.
Hebrew word.
I mean, I read it in King Jimmy and New King Jimmy
King Jimmy.
and NIV.
I was just wondering if you had decided to read the Jewish thing. Don't worry about it.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Well,
just
I
curious.
Yeah.
also had a follow-up question about that.
Yeah.
When you were reading all of those other religious texts, of course, you're reading them in the context where you are learning about these in order to refute
Yeah.
them or, understand how to deconvert people from them. But so it's obviously a very controlled environment. But was there ever a time where you started reading any of those other texts and thought, "Huh, that sounds, about as reasonable as the one we're working with,"
Yeah.
or
Yeah, I got in trouble one time. And my parents were big fans of James Dobson, and
Oh, mine too. I'm
spoil the
sorry.
rod, spare the child kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I remember one time clearly telling my dad that the Tao Te Ching and the Book of Proverbs were really similar, and that there's like
Damn.
some direct, like some of the verses are directly the same, right? That did not go over super well. Another one was it was the Song of Solomon, and I don't remember what the other text was, but it was like it was something with Song of Solomon too. But yeah, the Proverbs, the Book of Proverbs, and the Tao Te Ching, like there's some direct, like some verses that are almost identical between the two. Yeah, and that didn't go over super well. The other thing is that when I got around to my deconversion, to skip ahead, well, we'll back up a little bit. So I grew up in this bubble. I had I essentially had a seminary education in high school, and then I decided to take some time off before I went to school, and I went and worked at the YMCA of the Rockies in Winter Park, Colorado. And I started meeting people who hadn't grown up like I had grown up, right? And it was the first time in my life that I was meeting, like, and making friends with non-Christians, essentially. And so, I kept trying to invite people to Bible study, and there was this one guy, his name's Daniel, and Daniel was from Brazil. He was there on an 18-month internship program. And I invited Daniel to Bible study one night, and Daniel looked at me with his thick Brazilian accent. And at this point, he had taken me under his wing for several months. He was like an older brother to me. I loved this guy. I was 18. He was probably 22, 23. And he had really watched out for me. And it was my first time on my own, right? Like out in the world. And Daniel goes, "Jake, if I touch a Bible, I will burn." And Daniel was the first like atheist that I had ever met. And I couldn't bring around this idea that he was such a good person and that he was taking care of me and like looking out for me like a little brother. But that he was just doing it just because, right? It wasn't like out of a necessity or because he had been told to by some deity or anything like this. And so I think that was the first time that the cracks kind of started to appear of me being like, wait a second, like people, this goes against everything that I've ever known, right, or been told about, especially about atheists. And so as years went on, by the time I was like 21, I want to say 21, 22, I decided that I really wanted to be a better missionary. I wanted to like solidify my beliefs more, because I realized at this point that I really loved the question why. And I asked myself, why do I believe what I believe? And the only answer was because my parents do, my grandparents do, my great grandparents do, my great grandparents, great, and you now, like, you can trace it back like 1700 years. Somebody went to Norway or Northern Europe and held a sword to somebody's throat, and my family's believed it ever since. So I wanted to walk away so that I could see it as the truth I knew it was, right? Like this is true. I know it's true. So I'm going to walk away from it so I can kind of look back on it and see it as truth, choose it for myself, and then have a better testimony, because I felt my testimony was a little weak. But the farther away I walked, they say the quickest way to turn into an atheist is to read the Bible. And I think like reading all the other major religious texts helped with that as well, because as you walk away from it and you see them all kind of stacked up next to each other, you're like, these are just people looking for hope. These are just people looking for truth in a dark time where science wasn't around to explain why the sun moved across the sky, right? And so so I started to see them just kind of all as what they are, stories told by, ancient, mostly misogynists. Um, and and I remember really clearly sitting on a bed in my parents' house. I was visiting my parents at that time, and I said, "I don't believe in you, God." And then I realized the irony of the statement, right?
You're like, who am
Um,
I telling this to?
yeah, yeah. But my heart was just 1,000 miles an hour, and I was waiting for lightning to come through the window. And I'm committing the unforgivable sin, and there's
Right.
2 decades of guilt built into this, right?
Hmm.
And fear. And so I took a deep breath and I said, I don't believe in God. And there was a pause. And then I felt grace and I felt peace and I felt joy and relief and like all of the things that I had seen wash over the faces of hundreds of people that I had converted to God. I felt come over me. So I had this like, my conversion was my
Yeah.
deconversion, right? Like the grace moment for me, the freedom moment for me was letting go of all of this.
You felt
Um,
like you had been saved.
I did. Yeah. I felt like I'd been
Wow.
saved by reason, saved by science. Yeah, we should put that on a bumper sticker.
Absolutely.
Saved
Should
by
Yeah,
have made that the
science.
title for
yeah,
tonight. Saved by Science.
yeah. And so then it
Definitely
was
wouldn't get any
like
trolls for that one.
Oh,
people love it. Um, but it is how I
love the
felt.
trolls.
And so then it was a what's next, right? Because I had this framework for living. This like I knew I was a good person. I knew I was ethical and kind, and that I like empathy and compassion. And like I'm the person who's going to help an old lady across the street. Here in Milwaukee, we call it Midwest nice, but it's just who I am. Um, and so I went looking for this kind of placeholder or whatever, something that kind of explained my world. For a while, I thought I was a Dow-inspired Christian flavored deist. This was kind of pre pre full conversion, right? This was during my progressive Christian phase, before I
Mhm.
had fully deconverted. I
Oh,
figured
wait,
if
did you
Yeah.
go to that after this incident happened that you
no, no,
described,
so,
or
no,
it
yeah,
was before?
yeah, it was
Okay.
before. It was somewhere
Okay, so
between
I
18 and
thought you meant
yeah,
yeah.
somewhere between 18
A
and
lot of
21. I went on that really
Okay.
progressive, like kind of,
Hmm.
yeah, progressive Christian
Yeah.
stance of how do I make being nice to LGBTQ people fit with the Bible, right? How do I
Right.
like
Right.
how do I square this?
How do you
And
square the Bible with what you actually believe?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Turns out you have to
And
stop taking a lot of it literally, I would think.
yeah, yeah, you got to unmemorize a lot of stuff, and you got to try
Mhm.
to forget a
You
lot
gotta
of things too, right?
recontextualize it. Oh, this
Right.
was time bound. Oh, this is just a story.
Yeah, but the problem is when you've read it 3 times, like, you can't undo like, you can't
Yeah.
I can't cherry pick things. Like, I used to get
Yeah.
so mad at people when they would quote, like, "All scripture is God-breathed" from Second Timothy, right?
Uh-huh.
It's so weird too that, like, 2 decades later, I can still outpull, like, chapter and verse, you know? Um,
We had that happen here a couple of weeks ago where, like, somebody said something and it, like, set me off going with, like, several verses, and I was
yeah,
like, "Yep, it's still
yeah,
in there
still
rattling
there,
around."
still there. So,
I
like,
think I think it's a good thing, honestly, because we know the Bible. You
we
can't
do.
trick us.
Yeah,
You can't lie to us,
yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you can
yeah,
explain to people their hypocrisy if it comes down to it. Like,
yeah.
it's valuable.
So ahead of my full deconversion, I skipped some stuff because I was asked to leave several churches and Bible studies and not return because
Oh.
I like to say I knew more than the pastor did, and so I would ask questions that I knew they didn't have the answers to, but in
How
truth,
could you?
I really wanted them to give me answers, right? Like I really
Yeah.
wanted this thing to be real and for my beliefs to mean something. And so I would ask about, hey, like if we're quoting Second Timothy, where all scripture is God breathed, but Paul wrote that during a time where the first 5 books of the Bible were the only scripture, then what are we talking about here, right? Like this, like recall, because like, you know, they use that verse for all 50, you know, all the books. How many books?
Right.
66,
It's 66.
whatever,
Is it 66?
something like that.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
64, whatever.
It's
Well, it's not
60
just 5
something.
books of Moses. There's also like the prophets and all that
Yeah.
Narishkite. Like,
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, but that was scripture when Paul wrote that to
right. All
to
the Jesus
Timothy.
stuff wasn't there
Right.
yet. Right.
All the Jesus
Mhm.
stuff
Right.
wasn't there yet. And neither were the like Pauline epistles or any of the rest of the stuff, right? So you can't like say the new covenant is the way and that it's God breathed if Paul wasn't talking about the New Testament, the new covenant when he wrote this verse. And anyway, you know, that lends you to a escort out the front door of the Bible study. And hey, Jake, it's been really great having you here, but I don't think this is the right place for you, you know. And then the next Bible study, you'll say, hey, can you show me where premarital sex is in the Bible? And you know, they'll say something, well, you know, it's just not right. And I'll be like, well, let's talk about King David for a second, and King Solomon, and let's talk about how David basically, you know, molested Bathsheba, and then Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, had 1,000 wives.
You know, the shocking thing about that story is that like they clearly don't know their Bible very well, because you know the obvious apologetics is, well, King David did something very bad there and was punished for it.
Yeah,
But
he
here
wasn't
they're just
punished
kicking
for
you out for
that.
asking. Like,
Yeah, he was punished for killing Uriah.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't punished for the baby or the sex, you know.
Right.
Anyway,
And
that
that still
also
doesn't
would,
explain Solomon having
right,
all of the concubines. Like,
the
oh, I thought the
concubines and the-
biblical definition of marriage was one man
yeah,
and one woman.
yeah.
I guess not.
The
oh no,
son,
Judaism is cool with multiple. Yeah, like and you account for that, like all these Jews having like multiple wives in the Bible, like
yeah,
Yeah.
Abraham and Sarah and the whole thing. So anyway,
Jacob.
that gets you escorted out of some doors. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I think it was 3 churches and like 5 Bible studies. And
Oh,
by this
you
point,
were not going to shut up about this either. You were like, okay,
no,
on to the next one. I still
yeah.
have questions.
We'd also moved across the country, so it wasn't the church of my like high school years. It was like me going into new churches that didn't know me in the Phoenix area, and then those churches being like, "Who is this guy? And why is he trying to start shit?" Right? And then,
Uh-huh.
but
Well, I
like,
think what's sad is you were interacting with your community. Like you weren't like I don't get the sense that you were trying to be that guy.
no,
I think you were just going to Bible studies and being like, "Hey, I've got some questions. Like this is really bothering me."
And at that point, like,
And they
I
were
was
just like,
the
"No,
only-
get the fuck out."
yeah, and my Bible was the most earmarked, right? Because I was the only one in the room who had actually read the thing, like, you know. But yeah, so they don't really like question asking.
No.
So then post deconversion, you know, I don't believe in deities anymore. I don't believe in you know, I think maybe I could be a Taoist. Have you ever read the Tao of Pooh?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I was about to ask
It's an
you about that.
incredible book. The Unshaped Block
Yes.
is
It's
Mr.
so
Pooh.
good.
Yeah.
It's so
Pooh
good.
Sticks is
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
book.
But I was like, I don't want to be Pooh Bear, right? Like for those of you listening who haven't read the book is basically that Winnie the Pooh is the perfect Taoist, right? That he's Pooh just accepts life. Things just happen and Pooh says, "Oh, bother," right? And like just takes it as it goes. Like he sticks his hand in a bee's nest, you know, to get the honey. He gets stung. Oh, bother. This is Taoism.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's a very kind of apathetic way to live your life. I don't want to
Yes.
accept things. I want to influence things. I want to have a positive outcome on the world. And so I kept looking. At the time, Mark Twain was probably one of my favorite authors. I was doing a lot of traveling, a lot of backpacking and hitchhiking. And Twain wrote this book called Roughing It. He wrote Vagabond Broad, which was a great book. And I love the way that Twain writes. And I think that you can read Twain today, 125 years later, and he could have written it last week. Like Twain's just brilliant. And so Twain wrote, so I already left Twain. And then I found 2 books of Twain's that weren't published while Twain was alive. Have either of you ever heard of Letters from Earth?
Yes.
I've heard of it. I haven't read it yet, though.
I haven't read it though.
It would take you like less than an hour to read, I think. So you should definitely do it. And it's free online. The other one is
Adding it
Captain
to the list.
Stormfield. Captain Stormfield Visits Heaven is the other one. Also very short story. So these were both published posthumously, and they were written by Twain after he had stopped believing in God. And so, as a humanist, we claim Twain as a humanist, even though that wasn't really a word when Twain was around.
Right.
But Captain Stormfield visits heaven. He shows up at the wrong gates, and then he gets sent to the right gates. And then he gets given his halo and his harp, and he goes to the heavenly choir and realizes after a day and a half how boring it is, and that he can't really even play the harp,
Yes.
right? And just realizes like what a bore heaven is. And that's a great book. And then Letters from Earth is letters from Lucifer back to the angels in heaven. And there's things in there like, these apes think that God made them in his image. How laughable is that, right? Like, and really harsh takedowns of kind of our beliefs. And at the time when I read it for the first time, I was still very much a Christian, but it made me question. It made, I don't know, just the way that Twain writes. Like, it's sarcastic, but it's also true, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, why would I think that I look like an all-powerful deity, right? Like in all the attributes of God are manifest in me. No, come on, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm just an ant. Yeah. So post deconversion, I was on the search for something real. I found, I'd always loved Twain. I think that kind of led me into Douglas Adams and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I love that book. It's the best 5-book trilogy ever written.
Yes, hard agree.
Yeah,
So good.
so good. I was very much a backpacker. Like, I went to Brazil when I was 20 and backpacked around Brazil for a while. That was a real mind-opening experience for me as well. And I found out Douglas Adams was a humanist, and that kind of led me to like, well, what is humanism? And then as I discovered what humanism was, I was like, oh, this is me. This is just what it is to be a good person. This is just, who knew that there was a whole kind of set of values that were equated to this. As a Christian, we focus on the attributes of God, right? I think humanism is kind of the attributes of man, or the attributes of like an ethical human. And yeah, so I thought, okay, that's great, checkbox. And then I didn't think about it again for a very long time, right? I was like, that's what it is. And then over the last like couple of years, I've been thinking about what does humanism look like in reality? Like how do I make it a practice like I did as a Christian, right? Like, how do I make it a real thing, not just a philosophy? So when you're, if you look at Google search results, humanism spikes every September. Any guesses as to why?
September.
It's the college kids going back to school. Yeah. And so they hear about humanism for the first time in a philosophy class or a psychology 101 class when they learn about Abraham Maslow and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, humanist psychology. Okay. And so humanism is this thing that is both living and real and a breathing sort of belief system, but it's also humanist psychology. You have like Maslow, who was a card-carrying American Humanist Association member. But you also have it as this kind of ancient sort of philosophy that's hand in hand with Stoicism over the decades, though it wasn't, humanism wasn't really a word until the 1800s. No. But, this long, rich history and all this kind of stuff. So I think at the AHA, we kind of have this task of, okay, religion is on its way out. 40% of Americans, and that number grows every time there's a census, are becoming less and less religious. But there still needs to be some kind of way that we identify what's good and how we show up in the world and how we create a better tomorrow. And I think humanism is that thing. So we've been saying, if science tells you what's real and empathy tells you what's right, you might be a humanist. And if that's true, welcome to the club. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
So, well, that brings us to a pretty obvious question. Why don't you tell us what humanism is?
Yeah, I think it's that. So like humanism, it developed kind of from the Unitarian Universalist movement way back in the late 1800s. Has anybody read Brave New World?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so Huxley.
Mr. Huxley.
Yeah, Aldous Huxley. So Aldous Huxley's brother, Julian Huxley, was a founding member of the kind of humanist world, and his grandfather was also kind of, I think his grandfather first coined the term humanist. And so another sci-fi legend there for you was also a humanist. So the Huxley family was very involved in the early days of humanism. But anyway, grew from Unitarian Universalism and kind of grew from Christians who no longer believed in a deity, but still wanted to have this kind of a religion for the non-religious, a religion for people who didn't believe in God, because they believed very much, and as do I, that humans we're built on rituals, we're built on communal experiences. And so as our world kind of separates from this church being our third place, humanism was created specifically to kind of fill this gap. And so the American Humanist Association was founded in 1941, and has been going since then. We have 200 plus local communities around the country. Internationally, we have a ton of people overseas that are making humanism real. 1 in every 7 Northern Ireland weddings is a humanist wedding. Humanist Norway has over 500 employees, and they're like, I think a third of their coming of age ceremonies in Norway are humanist coming of age ceremonies for like that kind of replace bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs and stuff. And so that's kind of something that we're looking at. Like, is that something that's interesting to Americans? Is that something Americans would be into? But kind of how do we celebrate who we are as humans without the supernatural, without believing that anything outside of ourselves influence us, our decision making, or how we show up in the world, and that we can choose to be good because we are good. It's in our DNA. We were evolved to be communal. We were evolved to help each other out. We're a communal species, and we have a responsibility to make tomorrow better than yesterday. So how do we do that? How do we show up every day and make that real? So we have some, tenets, I guess, that we live by of compassion and empathy and reason, and kind of leading with, hey, is this provable? Is this real? Is, using the scientific method to figure out if it holds up. And if it doesn't hold up, I think we're all pretty big skeptics. And so I used to be a pretty hard anti-theist, right? I think we all kind of go through that angry atheist phase when we first deconvert. And I was pretty angry for a couple of years. I wouldn't even, like, I'm still an atheist, but I'm an atheist that's like more of a skeptic, I think, if that makes sense. Like if the heavens opened up tomorrow and there was like a booming voice, right? I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I'd like to explore this some more, right? Like, I'm open to it, but I need some scientific proof here, right? And so I've like, I'm not. There's just so much about the universe we don't know, and so like, I think that's one of the beautiful things for me is that replacing kind of atheism as my focus with humanism and making the world a better place allows me to ask bigger questions and allows me to kind of think in a bigger way. And I was able to eventually kind of let go of the guilt, let go of the fear, let go of the shame, let go of all that kind of stuff, because I am good. I am capable of empathy and compassion. I am working to create a better world. And I'm not doing it to earn a gold mansion or make or try to meet some blameless lamb thing. You know what I mean? Like, nobody had to die for me to be good. I'm just good.
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't know if that was a good explanation of what humanism is, but
Well,
science
so
tells you
what
what's
I'm
real.
hearing
It
is,
tells you what's right.
yeah, what I'm hearing is obviously atheism is just, it's one question. Do you believe in a God? I don't subscribe to
Yeah,
that belief. There's no praxis. There's no tenets.
right.
So the first time I heard the term humanism was actually in the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey. And it was a very important book to me growing up.
Yeah.
But he didn't have, so he had the same, he isolated, and he probably cribbed from, the Humanist Manifesto or whatever.
Yeah.
But
We have
he
a
had this,
manifesto. We have 3 of them, actually.
I don't know.
It's a big word, manifesto.
I know. Well, I figure there's some document, but like what I'm saying is he had this understanding of the need for ritual and play as well, which is why he crafted everything around his atheistic religion around the character of Satan. And he used the term divine humanism. But it wasn't built around empathy and love and acceptance and not necessarily empirical thinking. It was built more around your own self-interest and living your life to the fullest and putting other people secondary, which I'm not quite there anymore. I'm not that edgy anymore. But again, humanism gave you that praxis to live your life in a more fulfilling way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't, yeah, selfishness is not one of the virtues that I would say I try to live by, which it sounds like divine humanism kind of like, so there's this other idea of like religious naturalism, which is kind of similar to humanism.
Mhm.
Effective altruism is very similar to humanism. There's a lot of variations and flavors of humanism. There's one person in the humanism subreddit that is convinced that modern day humanism isn't a thing and that humanism is just this like ancient philosophy and that like modern day humanism
What?
doesn't. Yeah, it's great. He's a trip. Um, so everybody has their kind of own version of what humanism is or how they choose to show up, and I think that's how life should be, right? Like none of us are living by dogma or creed, and so I think you choose what it is for you, um, but the basics of it being that compassion and empathy guide us, which I think is in opposition a little bit to selfishness, and so like being selfish doesn't make for a better tomorrow. It just makes for, you know, greed. Uh, and so, yeah, I
Right.
think, and I
Yeah.
think greed is the, you know, probably the thing that's ruining our world faster than anything. So,
Yes.
if there's anything that we could fight against, it would be that. And I think empathy is kind of in opposition to greed. But
Oh,
yeah, there are some
yes.
people who look at humanism as like, we're all gods. And that's not quite humanism either. Right.
Yeah, that's more
Yes.
LaVeyan Satanism. That's his like
Yeah.
thesis, you know.
Yeah.
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 Well, and I remember hearing, back when I was, very religious and going to the Christian schools and everything in the churches, they would talk about humanism basically in those terms of it's a religion
Yeah.
basically worshiping man and
Yeah.
yourself and setting yourself up as, your own God in opposition to
Mhm.
God and, all of that. That is not what you're describing. You have made that very clear. Would you say that humanism for you is a religious practice, or are you more on the secular humanist side of things, or
Yeah.
where do you
Well,
fall?
so that's a great question. America is the only country that calls it secular humanism.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The rest of the
I
world is
did
just
not know that.
humanism. So we put this like weird, precursor on it or whatever. What would that word be called? I was homeschooled. An adjective.
Sorry.
Amazing.
Adjective. Yeah.
I think
Qualifier? You
it's
mean
an
a qualifier?
adjective.
Qualifier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Adjective. Yeah. Qualifier.
Yeah. Like it's
So we're
secular humanism,
right,
you know.
but as if
Yeah.
there's like any other version of humanism though. Like, um, anyway, so yeah, I think that humanism can be a religion if you want it to be.
Mhm.
And so for a lot of people, it is. I think that um, in America specifically, we don't have a ton of ritual built into humanism, but in the rest of the world, they do. So in like Norway, like I said, it's a big thing. Like a third of Norwegians identify as humanists on the census. And so they have these coming of age ceremonies, and they have more ritual and influence. We have chaplains that are endorsed by the same endorsing body as religious as other faiths. And so, we have humanist chaplains, we have humanist celebrants that officiate weddings um,
Okay.
and funeral rites and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that I would like to see more ritual infused into humanist practices, because I think that there's an element of ritual and play that builds community and builds cohesion. So if we're all kind of in on the same joke, it makes us feel more connected to one another.
Is
So
that a
yeah,
controversial take? Because I've seen
it
people talk
is.
about the Satanic Temple
Yeah,
and the LaVeyan Satanism as like, I don't get it. Just be atheists. You're being
yeah,
atheists with extra steps.
yeah,
Like I get what you're saying, and I,
Mhm.
I I even support it. Like coming from
yeah,
the helpline and talking to people that have lost their community and
yep,
everyone in their
Mhm.
life,
yep.
Mhm.
being able to point them to a universal Unitarian church
Mhm.
is it's a
Is
small thing.
yeah.
So
I
Mhm.
yeah,
I personally, so on my like I have zero desire to go back into a church, right?
right.
And so like the idea of it is not enticing to me in any way. But when I talk about ritual, I talk about things like meditation, maybe,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Of like
Oh yeah.
just learning how to quiet your mind. Like ritual can be a lot of different things, but I think that for those of us who deconverted, those words are so triggering sometimes. And I think that we need to reclaim some of these things that they stole from us, right? So we rejected these things, but I think in some ways, like, we rejected things that weren't theirs to take away. I don't know how to say this in the way that it means something, but like they stole my family, my friends, my childhood, right? Like everything that I grew up with was gone in that moment. And so now 20 years later, I'm thinking about the things that I really enjoyed from those years, that and how do I reclaim those things? And I think that there was moments of prayer, there was moments of meditation, there was moments of quiet reflection that I really did enjoy back then. Um, Not so much the prayer or talking to imaginary friends, but the the introspection of it, right? Or the I'm going to journal now. Well, for back then it was like, I would read my Bible and then I would journal my notes about my reading or whatever. But those kind of moments, I rejected all of that stuff when I left, right? Like I threw the baby away with the bathwater, I think. And so I think
Mhm.
that there's some of that kind of stuff that I want to reclaim now. And maybe I'm just getting older. I'm like 41. And so like there's some of those kinds of things that like,
Ancient.
yeah, as you age, you start to want to, I don't know, take it slower or something. Um, but yeah, it is a hot take, even on our staff. So even in the small team at the AHA, there are people on the team who don't think that humanism is religion and don't want it to be a religion. And then there are other people who say, actually, like it could be a religion or it should be for those who want it. So I also think that like we live in America where there's religious rights. And there needs to
Right.
be something for all of us who are not worshiping at an altar every week to have protection under religious rights as well. And humanism is that thing. Like we are, by all accounts, a religion. It was started to be a religion. I think going back to the first humanist manifesto, it even uses the word religion somewhere in that, I think. Um, but from a lot of humanists, it's not a religion. It's just a life stance or a philosophy or a way that they choose to show up in the world, and that's totally acceptable too. Because again, there's no creed, there's no pastor waving a finger at you on Sundays telling you you're doing it wrong. Just show up, be real, question, be a skeptic, be kind, and try to make a better tomorrow.
Hmm.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah, super complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious though about like what specific rituals there are. Like, are there like humanist? I don't want to say churches, temples, or
We
gathering places.
Yeah, we have, so like I said, we have 200 plus chapters around the country. And some of them are just book clubs. Some of them are
Right.
quarterly picnics or potlucks of people getting together and helping each other out. Some of them meet in Unitarian Universalist churches in their basements. Some of them are offshoots of UU churches. One of them in Chicago has their own building that's very much a church building with stained glass and everything. And they open with a song. They kind of have very similar to church sort of rituals. They have like a Sunday school for the kids. And it's an incredible community of people that talk about science instead of preaching, a Bible or a scripture at you. And so every Sunday that they meet, they have a different speaker that usually comes in and talks about something real and something provable, and then they have community afterwards. And so there's different ways of doing it. Or like I said, like in Norway, they have coming of age ceremonies. There's a lot of humanist celebrants running humanist weddings, humanist funeral rites. We have death cafes where we talk about facing death and what that looks like as a secular person who doesn't
Hmm.
believe in an afterlife, but the fear of death is still real for us, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
different ways. And so coping with that, so death cafes are really popular around the country. Those things aren't maybe really rituals, but I think that there's elements of ritual probably infused into all of those things, even if people
It's
aren't thinking
communal
about it that way.
activity.
Yeah,
It's
Mhm.
communal activity. It's shared experience. It
shared
builds
experience.
relationships, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think, like I said, I kind of want to reclaim the word ritual, even though it's one of those like buzzwords that kind of trigger some of us.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should be afraid of it because it is, to your point, King Loki, shared experience is what I think.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and we
You call me
know
Daniel. I forgot to change my name before I came in. I do that with my podcast. So
I've already
sorry.
suspended my disbelief. I believe you're a ruler of a small, faraway kingdom, and your subjects love you.
the
I'm
Transformers
the
are
Lord
his
of Deathwish
subjects.
Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. I know we hear from a lot of people who are recovering from religion that say they miss the ritual, or that the
Mm.
ritual was something that kept them in longer than they really believed
Yeah.
in the religion itself, or the belief system
For me, it was the
itself.
community, right? Like
Yeah.
I miss the community. And so finding out that humanism is this thing that has millions of people around the world who identify with it, and that I already was a humanist and didn't know it, and then
Yeah.
knowing that oh, that is me. And then being like, oh wait, there's a whole group of people that believe the same things I do, and like none of us were like misled into this or trickeried into it. Am I
Right.
allowed to swear on here? Have you guys seen
Oh, fuck no.
You're allowed to. You're
have you
not allowed to
seen
Yes.
fucking curse, bro.
Have you seen the Our Flag Means Death show, the HBO show?
Yeah, it's awesome.
No, I
It's
have
great.
not.
Yeah. Anyway, they call it a fuckery, which I love. Yeah. So none of us were fuckeried into it, right? We
Right.
just arrived at humanism. Humanism is one of those things that like you're not converted into being a humanist, right? Like nobody's
Mhm.
like, okay, well now you have to say the magic words and then you get to become a humanist. Like you just one day realize like, oh, there's this thing that I already am, and there's a community out doing good. And so like all of our communities are really built around service projects and advocacy efforts. So we do a lot of separation of church and state work. We do a lot of service project work. We have a huge empathy kind of grant program that we're rolling out in a couple of months. We want to give away $100,000 around the country. So to do a national kind of day of service that's right before the day of prayer, because we have one group in Pittsburgh that every Easter they go and donate blood. Because everybody
Nice.
else is doing their prayers, but like humanists are out doing the thing, right? Making the world a
That's
better
beautiful.
place. And
Yeah.
so that's what it's about. Yeah. How do we make tomorrow better than yesterday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Instead of thoughts and prayers, let's do actual things. So how can people get involved? So you work with the American Humanist Association. You've
Mm,
described a lot of the kind of programs and activities that go on there. What can people do if they're, sitting at home watching this right now and thinking, "Oh man, I wish there was a group like that around me." How
yeah.
do people get involved in this?
That's a great question. So first thing, do you believe that science tells you what's real and empathy tells you what's right? If so, congrats, you're probably a humanist.
Oh wow,
And it's that easy. There
we're
you
in.
go. Yeah, throwing the magic humanist water at you.
Awesome.
And so if you're feeling alone, you can go to humanist.org, and that'll take you to americanhumanist.org, where you can find a community near you or information about starting community. Or for as little as $1, you can join our online community, our Discord, where we have people from all over the country and all over the world, actually. So there's over 2,000 members in our Discord. And then
Wow.
we have a daily dose text message that goes out 3 times a week. That's a quote from a humanist. A lot of famous humanists, as we've discussed over the decades, from Gloria Steinem to Kurt
Mm.
Vonnegut. And so a humanist quote to kind of motivate you and keep you going. There's book clubs, there's service projects, there's just show up tomorrow and try to make the world better. Walk an old lady across the street. Congratulations, you're doing humanist stuff.
I
But
love it.
definitely get involved with us, connect with us on our website, join our Discord, and then find a local community and plug in. Like I know what it feels like to be alone post deconversion. And I wish that I had known 20 years ago that I didn't have to be alone, that there's other people who still want to make the world a better place without a gold mansion waiting at the end of this, right? Or without the guilt of somebody died for me to be good. Like you are good, you are capable of goodness, and you just gotta show up.
Right. Well, and speaking of service projects and things people can get involved in, I know y'all have actually been working with recovering from religion as well to help
Yeah.
people kind of have a softer place to land as they're coming out of religion. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. First off, humanism is not out to convert anybody, right? So we're not out there saying, hey, like, let's start an RFR group to lead people into being humanists, because that's not what it's about. I also want to clarify, like, you don't have to be an atheist to be a humanist. Like, we have a lot of agnostics, a lot of seekers, a lot of whatever it is that I am now. Like I said, I still am an atheist, but I'm open to ideas, which is whatever. But it's not like a checkbox you have to make, right? Being a humanist is more about how you choose to show up in the world than the the disbelief of supernaturalism. Yeah. So, but we do encourage all of our communities to start things that service their local community, and I think that nothing services a local community better than our RFR chapter. And so, we're encouraging all of our group leaders and our humanists around the country to go through RFR training, to volunteer for RFR, to work the chat, to start a local community and help people who are in the same space that so many of us were when we. A lot of humanists are deconverted folks, right? A lot of us are. There's a lot of people, even on staff too, who grew up in it, which is amazing. And I'm like, what must it be like to not have latent guilt? Like, that's just gotta be stellar. Well, you have a healthy relationship with your family. What is that like?
No.
It's crazy. Yeah, so we encourage everybody to become an RFR volunteer and to help people on this journey, because the destination, I think, is worth it. And whether or not you choose to identify as a humanist or not, freeing yourself from that guilt and that shame and that bar that you can never reach, life is so much better and brighter when you like get to exist in the moment, right? I think has anybody read the Beat Poet stuff? Like
Ginsberg?
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that I got really into that too, of like, this is the only moment. That's a very humanist thing. Like, this is the only moment I have, right? Like, the last second doesn't exist. The next one, it doesn't exist. This is it. This is all I got. So how am I going to make the world better?
Yeah.
How am I going to be better?
I got really into Buddhism, like, at one point. Like, I left Judaism and fell into Norse mythology for a while, and then kind of found my way into Zen Buddhism, of all things.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of that. You're not the same person from one moment. And I carry some of that with, because some of that is just...
It's true, though.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it's like, we believe in atrophy, right? We believe in like the nature of the universe, and it's true. Like, this is the only
Every
thing
second
that's
is
real.
a new chance to turn over a new leaf or start something new. Like, I started a poetry magazine one day, and now I have all these new friends. Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
You started a poetry what?
A poetry magazine one day, and now I have all these friends. I run workshops. I just did it one day. I was like,
amazing.
I'm gonna start a poetry magazine. There's nothing more important than art. And
that's very
but that's what I'm saying. Like, you can start something today. Right now, you could build something. And so
100%. Can we talk for a second about how much cooler the world would be if the Crusades hadn't happened? Like,
yes, please.
let's
like
and if we didn't try and restart them constantly.
Well, that too. Yeah.
Well, how great the modern age would be if we didn't have weirdos with a Deus Vult tattooed on their body.
Yeah, that. But like, my wife is from Mexico, and I went in Mexico City. There's this amazing anthropology museum. It's one of the best museums I've ever been to in the world. It's incredible.
What's it called?
Wait, it's in Mexico?
Museo de Anthropology or something.
That tracks. I set myself up for that, didn't I?
Yeah. Awesome. It's incredible. But you go there, and they've got like these ancient games set up that they used to play with, like the heads of captured, like just crazy stuff, right? And so or like the stories of like ripping out the still beating hearts of virgins,
right?
Or then you watch like the TV show Vikings, which I know is totally true.
It's documentary.
Right, it's a documentary. But like, how much cooler would the world be if all of these people, like, I'm not anti-religion anymore, but I think the world would be way cooler if we had a diversity of religion instead of just 3 or 4 major ones. Some of those.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because if you look at like Norse paganism, it reflects the world they lived in. Cold, kind of
cold and dark. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
you never knew if you were going to make it through the winter.
Yeah.
The
eschatology of dead religions is fascinating, because again, they're homegrown, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they existed in that moment, in that space, in that time. Yeah. And so I think, which brings me back to humanism. And I think humanism is the religion for this moment in time.
I
Because,
love how we got there.
yeah. Well,
Hey, that's where we need to be.
I don't know. You likely get frustrated too when you see Christians not being Christian, right? And you
Yes.
like coming out of it, you're like, that's not what this was, or that's not what I believed. And then you see them out, like, doing the stuff that they're doing right now. And I think that more and more people are, well, I don't think, the census tells us more and more people are waking up to the reality that like religion is not true, or like it doesn't uphold its promises, right?
Hmm.
Where humanism is like, I uphold the promise of humanism, right? You uphold the promise of humanism. Like, we choose every day to show up and make humanism real. And so I think that that's a very empowering thing for this moment in time. And I went to No Kings. AHA was a national partner for all the mobilizations last year. We encourage all of our local
Nice.
communities to get out. Several of our local chapter leaders were local hosts for those mobilizations. And they're all incredible people. But you go to those things, and all of the signs are very humanist signs of like,
Hmm.
like, we believe in science, women's rights. Like, the AHA was like, we do a lot of policy work and a lot of legal work. We were pro women's rights before it was a national movement. We were pro civil rights before that was a thing. Like we were at the head of all of this, because if you just look around and say, hey, how do we make life more fair for everybody? Then like, that's the direction that humanism leads you, right? And it's not, yeah. So it's a very exciting time and place to be at this. Hegseth mentioned secular humanism several times 2 weeks ago, as he was talking about redoing the chaplains program in the military.
Yes.
The
And
funny
we've
thing is,
talked.
humanist chaplains can't serve in the military right now. That's not like, we're not even allowed in there right now. So like, blaming us for ruining it is kind of hysterical.
Wow.
But
Yes. And we've
yeah,
had a guest on before who talked about humanist chaplains in the military before
yeah,
as well, and all of the, obstacles and
yeah,
difficulties, that they were always up against.
yep, yep,
It's
yeah. So
ridiculous to on the one hand, basically prevent people from accessing, entire spaces, completely shut them out of power in any way, and then turn around out of the other side of your mouth and say, oh, they're the cause of
right,
all of these problems, they've
right,
ruined everything. Well, how?
yeah,
How could they have?
yeah. But it also brings us back around to like it's less maybe the ritual, but the kind of pastoral care aspect, right? Of
Hmm.
like, which I think is kind of this thing that I've been thinking a lot about. I'm thinking in real time here. I don't have any like defined thoughts on this, but like, we have humanist chaplains, and they offer pastoral care to secular folks, right? And I think that there's something slightly different than therapy in what that kind of definition is of pastoral care. And it's not something that we've like explored a whole lot in the
Hmm.
secular world, but I think it's something that can be explored as we kind of continue forward. Of what does that mean? Like, how do we nourish each other um, in a you know in a non-belief way, or a belief in each other's good way? Yeah, we believe in good.
Hmm.
Anyway, yeah. All
Love
right,
it.
tangent.
No, we love tangents here. We're here for it.
Yeah.
Well, and we are about at an hour. We have one question that may be a good kind of segue from what you were just talking about, if you're
Mm,
ready for a question.
let's go.
Okay, so the question is, you've talked a lot about what humanism is, and
Mm.
we really enjoyed, a lot of people really liked that one phrase that you had earlier about, what was it that
Science
if you
tells us what's real, and empathy
yes.
tells us what's right.
That's right. Yes,
Yep.
that was great. And then someone else is wondering though, okay, so what is humanism not? Can you define it that way? Like, are there things that, are
Oh yeah.
often misconceptions or ways
Oh
that you can kind of say this is
yeah.
this is what it would not look like?
Yeah. So I'm guessing that a lot of your followers know who Drew of Genetically Modified Skeptic is. Yeah.
Yes. We've
So
been trying to have Drew on the program for a while. Drew, if you're listening, come join us.
Come on the show. We love you.
yeah, Drew's amazing. I really like Drew, big fan. So this past year we started a Humanist Creator Fund. It was an idea that I had earlier in the year, we really believe that secular creators need to be sponsored by secular organizations. And so at our conference in over the summer, we put a challenge out there to our donors, and one donor stepped up and kind of funded this program, which was amazing. And Drew was there for it, and so Drew was kind of our first creator in this program. Drew also has a video from 3 years ago that has like 3 million views, and the name of the video is why I no longer call myself a humanist, I think is the name of the video, or why I'm not a humanist.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that video, Drew does a really great job of explaining all the things that humanism isn't, while thinking that it is what humanism is. So, Daniel explained some of that stuff earlier. Humanism isn't about putting ourselves on a pedestal. We are of nature. We are from nature. We belong to nature. We evolved from nature. We have a responsibility to take care of nature. And so there's this idea that humanism is that humanists are the apex species, and therefore we dominate the world. That's not humanism. Humanism is about taking care of for lack of a better term, Mother Earth and the space that we exist in, right? While exploring the questions that remain and using our skepticism to do so. A lot of humanists are vegans because they take that to that kind of natural end of I have a responsibility to take care of the world around me. Therefore, I'm going to opt out of these kinds of things. So that's one thing. Humanism is not this humans are the best type of idea. I think that's probably one of the most common ones. And that's the one that the church pushed for a long time as well, right? Like that we put ourselves on a pedestal and that we're equal to God and this kind of stuff. We don't believe in God, so therefore we're not equal to anything. We're equal to each other and the world around us. So I think that's probably the biggest one that people have as a misconception. What else is humanism not? It's not a cult. We don't worship anybody. There's no leaders that we bow down to or anything weird like that. You read about like these ancient religions that had like orgy practices. You're kind of like, man, where are those religions these days? Humanism's not one of those religions.
Oh man, that build up there.
So
I thought that was going another direction.
You should have kept that one in your pocket. You were almost through the door.
They were almost there. Yeah. Everybody gets a free condom. No, so yeah, those are the things that humanism is not. There's no kind of central creed. We do have manifestos that are on our website. First one was written in 1933. But it's more about like we reject supernaturalism and we believe that we are capable of good kind of stuff. They're not like hard and fast ways that you have to live. And if you read the first one from 1933 and you read the most recent one, which I think was from 2001, like humanism evolves over time as well, which is not true of other religions, right? So humanism is something that we create. Like we make it real and we change it as we go. So
just to be clear, a manifesto is just a statement of purpose.
It's just
like the fact that like the last psychotic letter of a school shooter is a manifesto too is insane. It pisses me off. Like
it's I like the word
improperly.
I did you go through a manifesto stage? I really wanted to write my own manifesto in my early 20s.
I mean I did. I don't know about Kara.
I did not, but I knew Daniel was going to say yes to that.
Did you do it in the cool like logo fonts as well? That was like a whole thing. Do you remember? You could maybe
no. I had very lovely handwriting back then, so it was all handwritten.
All right. What else is humanism not? Humanism is not I don't know. I mean, just be a good person. That's all it is. That's what it is. Be a good person.
Would you recommend reading the Humanist Manifesto?
Don't be a jerk. I mean, it's a good place to start, I think. Okay. Yeah. It's a good place to start. We also have these
one of our mantras around here as well.
Don't be a jerk. Yeah. We also have the 10 Commitments is a thing that a lot of people kind of gravitate towards. It's on our education site. And if anybody from my staff is listening, I apologize, but I don't love it because I don't like replacing things with things that are that. But for a lot of people, they really like the 10 Commitments, and like the 10 Commitments are like altruism and service and empathy and compassion and like ways that we choose to show up. They're really great. I think they're a great way to explain humanism to like a kid. And so from that kind of perspective,
Right.
but for me, I think things like that are still a little bit not triggering is maybe not the right word, but just kind of I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
not to knock on the 10 commandments. They're great. A lot of people love them, but
Right. Right.
Yeah.
that's also a great place to start. But those are just values. They're just values of like being a good person, right? And so like that's all humanism is. To make humanism real, to be a living, breathing humanist, it's just to like every civil right for every single person, right? Like that's a good place to start.
Speaking of organizations and belonging to a group, the Church of Satan, which I've talked about a few times, you probably still can. You'd send them $200 and they'd send you a little red card to show that you were a
To
card
become a
carrying
member.
Satanist.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You don't have to be a card carrying
none of that here.
member. We do appreciate donations.
Yes.
AHA like RFR exists on donations. We do a lot of political advocacy work, and so we do a lot of separation of church and state work, and we do a lot of protecting people. So if you're a humanist and you're being targeted for your beliefs, we have a legal team that would love to talk to you. Please email legal@americanhumanist.org. If you and so this might be maybe you are considering starting a family, but you live in a state that has rules that make you afraid to get pregnant. That might be something that you want to talk to a lawyer about. Or maybe you have a child whose school is putting up 10 commandments in their classroom. That might be something that you want to talk to a secular lawyer about. And so if you identify as a humanist, or if you just found out you're a humanist tonight and you're having some kind of issue like that in your life, please email our legal team. We do a lot of that kind of work as well. We have a policy team. We have a lot of secular officials that are coming out for the first time. Our executive director, his dad was actually the first secular congressman in America, the first openly atheist congressperson, Pete Stark, back in the 90s. And so we support politicians who identify as humanists or atheists or agnostics. We do a lot of that kind of work as well. So there's a lot of ways that you can get involved. If you want to run for office as a secular person, we would love to help you. And we have a sister organization that can support that kind of work on the political side. So yeah, a lot of ways that we're kind of making humanism real every day.
Wow.
Well, awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I've dropped the link to the website in the chat so people can find y'all there. And if they want to get in touch with anybody at those email addresses,
Yeah. Or you can just email jake@humanist.org. I'm here for you.
Kara froze on the live stream. In the actual recorded version, you won't see that. So,
Yeah.
There we are.
Oops, sorry,
and they're back.
Froze for a second.
there,
froze
sorry.
on the live stream. Yeah.
Oh, Riverside uploads like from your. I
Yeah.
understand now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in the actual
Yes.
recorded thing, it'll be fine. But for us here, we're like, what? Huh? Yeah.
We'll edit that out in post.
Look at the stuff us basic apes invent. It's crazy.
Isn't it great?
I know.
It's so cool.
It's smarter than us.
It's amazing.
Well,
what
anyway,
science can do.
You probably already answered my question then, or I don't know if I froze before I asked it, but can people go to the AmericanHumanist.org website and find those email addresses to get in touch with the folks you mentioned?
Yep.
100%.
100%.
Awesome. Well, I've dropped that in the chat. And yeah, this has been fantastic. Thank you for sharing all of this with us. I have been considering myself a humanist for a while now, but I actually learned more about what that means here tonight. So this was educational for me.
Me too.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I honestly, listening to you talk about it, I might want to get involved in some capacity. I don't know. I do a lot of things. So,
Yes. Yeah. You were very busy.
I think y'all are already living humanism just doing this. Like, so,
Yeah.
Encouraging people to ask questions, encouraging exploration, encouraging asking why is a very humanist thing to do, and I think that we need more folks like y'all. So thank you.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing, and I think that's probably a good note to wrap up on, unless there's anything else that you want to leave us with that we haven't touched on yet.
Communal gratitude. Thanks for being you, and thanks for showing up.
Love it. Well, thanks to you for being you and showing up.
Absolutely.
And thanks to everybody else for joining us tonight as well. This has been fantastic. And of course, the reason we have the show every week is because people keep showing up to watch the show. So thank you all for being here. And thanks for everybody who makes it happen in the background. and the foreground, and edits out all the times I freeze in the middle of the show. So thank you, everybody, for that. And don't forget to join us next week, same time, same channel. We're going to have Florio of Florio's Phantom Files, talking about going from psychic to skeptic next week. So join us for that. And if you want to find more information about recovering from religion and to access our other resources, be sure and visit our website at recoveringfromreligion.org. And you can get in touch with a volunteer on our 24/7 helpline, find a support group, look at our online resources, look at the blog, listen to the podcast, or even get connected with a licensed mental health care professional. So check us out there. And let's see, I'm going to let Daryl in to close us out with a few words. But first, Daniel, do you want to tell people where they can find us on the interwebs if they would
Oh,
like to
yeah.
get more involved?
We're all over. Our fiefdoms are all over the internets, as a wise man called it. Check out our link tree. Carol will be putting it in the chat.
Yep.
Our
There it
Facebook,
is.
our Instagram, our TikTok, our Blue Sky. Links are all also in the show description on YouTube. So if you're watching us after the fact, do scroll down and click, the button.
Yes.
And also, most previous RfRx recordings can be found on our YouTube channel in the RfRx playlist. It's awesome. There's a lot of
Yes.
great content there. Thinkers, speakers, writers, artists from all walks of life come to speak to us on various topics. So do scroll through that. And lastly,
Absolutely.
we just want everyone to know that RfRx is staffed entirely by volunteers. As far as I know, we're all volunteers here. We have learned that personal healing can result from helping others to heal. If you're so inclined and in a position to do so, we would love for you to join our team. We need IT people. We need hosts. We need people to man the helpline. Anything you can do, it'll probably help. To apply, simply fill out the form on our main page. And speaking of volunteers, please check out the new playlist on the Recovering from Religion YouTube channel, RFR Deconstruction Stories. Each episode features an interview from with a volunteer sharing the story of their own deconstruction journey. Episodes include some folks RfRx viewers may be familiar with, including Glenda, Gail, myself, and none other than our own Kara Griffin.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thanks to Rob for getting that channel up and running again.
It is
that
Rob's
playlist.
baby.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, with that, we have with us President and Founder Dr. Daryl Ray to give us our weekly benediction. Dr. Ray, how are you?
Someday I'm going to give you a benediction and you are
Oh my
going to
goodness.
regret it.
I am. I will get what I've been asking for this whole time and immediately regret it.
Yeah, watch
Story
out
of my
what you
life.
pray for.
Right.
Well, Jake, I've been looking ever since Kara told me sometime back that you were going to be on. I've been looking forward to this. I really appreciate you coming on here and educating us on all the stuff you do. I'll tell you this: Mark Twain and Letters from Earth was my gateway drug to atheism,
Yes.
along with Bertrand Russell. Why I'm Not a Christian. Those two books. I mean, there were other books, of course, but those two books. But Letters from Earth just blew my mind because I never looked at things from that perspective.
It's so good.
Yeah, I read the Screw Tape Letters, by what's his name, the
C.S.
Christian
Lewis, right?
apologist.
Yeah.
C.S.
C.S.
Lewis.
Lewis.
Yeah, I thought, okay, Mark Twain was a lot more perceptive than C.S. Lewis ever was. I probably read the two books around the same time when I was young adult, and those both hit me. But I was shocked at how much more interesting it was to read Mark Twain, and the fact that those were published posthumously.
Mhm.
I don't think you said why, but his own daughter refused. He wanted to publish them, but his own daughter, but he didn't because his
Yeah.
wife was against it.
Yep.
And then his daughter had control of his estate afterwards, and she refused to let him be published for years.
Yep.
I think it was at least 10 or 15 years after his death they finally published them.
I don't think they were published till like 53 or 54. So I think it was
Yeah,
like
because it was his. Yeah, I think you're right because it was his daughter that had control of the estate, and that would have been because I think his wife had control initially. So yeah, you're probably right. It probably was about 50.
For anybody who's interested in this, just go search Mark Twain Letters from Earth on Google, and there's a bunch of PDFs. I think it's in public domain now, so you can read it for free. It's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sure it probably is. Well, anyway, and then Bertrand Russell's Why I'm Not a Christian, among other things. There's a lot of books that influenced me, but when you mentioned Letters from Earth, I thought, well, cool. You're the first person besides myself that I've heard was influenced by those books. And last but not least, before I get back to you, Kara, Jake, thank you, and thank Fish Stark and American Humanist. We are really interested in working together and trying to find ways to help people in whatever way our partnership can. And you and I have talked, and Fish and I have talked, and let's look forward to seeing how this all comes out in the future.
I love what y'all
Back
do.
to you, Kara.
Well, thank you, Daryl, and thank you, Jake and Daniel. And that's it. As a reminder, if you're watching this live and you would like to continue the conversation tonight, head on over to Zoom and join us in the post-show hangout. I'm going to drop the link into the chat for anybody that would like to join us there. We'll be headed over there in just a few moments. So come hang out with us if you're looking for more community. And with that, that wraps up this week's episode of RfRx, your reminder that recovery is a journey best shared. We'll see you next time, same channel, same prescription.